Welcome back to Root Double Xtend episode. And in this episode, we'll be starting off with tackling Mashiro's extra events. So we have 4 keys to get through. First and foremost, 1 week after Yuuri's funeral, Mashiro visits Natsuhiko in the hospital, only to find him in a shocking state. After learning about Yuuri's death, Mashiro cried for a whole day. An entire week after she attended Yuuri's funeral, Mashiro still cried each time she remembered it. Mashiro sobbed as she waited for the bus to go to the hospital. No matter how much she cried, she could not recover from the sadness of losing a dear friend. Say, Yuuri had an ever-gentle smile on her face. Yuuri had told her she was cute, even when nobody would treat her like a girl. Yuuri had praised her cooking whenever they played house. Yuuri was the gentlest, cutest girl that Mashiro wanted to be. Mashiro's memories of Yuuri came and went in her mind. Hey Yuuri, it was only about a year ago that we met, huh? Admired you ever since that day. I thought that if we kept hanging out together, I'd grow up to be a lovely girl just like you. But I never thought we'd have to say goodbye just a year later. Even as sadness filled Mashiro's heart, just one other thing remained. Her worry for Natsuhiko. Wonder if Natsuhiko's okay. Natsuhiko didn't attend Yuuri's funeral. He was apparently still in the hospital. He hadn't come to school at all. I gotta go pay him a visit. Mashiro wiped her tears as the bus arrived. As she got off the bus in front of the hospital, Mashiro went through reception and headed to Natsuhiko's room. Let's fast forward. As she headed home, her head swirled with various thoughts and feelings. The strongest feeling of them all was regret. Yuuri went to labor in my stead and died because of it. That's why Natsuhiko's like that. Mashiro's heart was torn apart by the regret of what she could never undo. She couldn't think of a way to dispel that regret. At least until Natsuhiko returns to normal, She resolved to put everything she had into watching over Natsuhiko. She didn't care if she was merely serving as a replacement for Yuuri or about anything else. Mashiro swore to herself that she would watch over him. Translucent. Oh, first meeting? I'd say let's check this out right now. It was a story from before Mashiro and Natsuhiko got along. Back then, Mashiro was a boyish girl who bustled about town alongside the boys. The secret base that Mashiro was currently in was also a place they had found while bustling about town. The boys all called her a tomboy, and naturally, the one who started calling her that was that dastardly Natsuhiko. Not gonna let him use this secret base.
いい？Natsuhikoには絶対ここのこと教えちゃダメだからね。
Boys around her nodded to her whispers. Mashiro had taken 3 boys to the secret base to play, without telling Natsuhiko, of course.
それは分かってっけどさ。
教えたとしてもきっと来ないよ。最近夏彦変なの。
変？どういうこと？
なんかさ、最近落ち込んだりそわそわしてて、いつもの夏彦って感じじゃねえよな。知らない女と一緒にいたって誰かが言ってたよ。
ああ、俺も聞いたことあるぜ。その人、小学生とかだって。
Deep down, Mashiro was surprised to hear that. She'd never heard anything about Natsuhiko getting along with a girl before. It bothered her a little, as to what sort of girl she was, but who cares about that guy? I know I don't, that's for sure. Bakahiko. It was annoying to think about Natsuhiko-related things, so she dropped the matter.
きっとその女が恋人になっちゃったんだよ。
Or she thought she did.
恋人ができるとそわそわするって姉ちゃん言ってた。
恋人か。夏彦はエロだな。
うん、エロだ。女と仲良くする男はエロって相場が決まってるんだ。
エロなんだ。あれ？あんたたちは？ 私と一緒にいるけど。
だって真白は女じゃないもん。
男女だもんな。
Despite her half-hearted answer, Mashiro was irritated on the inside. She didn't know why. She knew she was being teased, but it wasn't just that.
まあ別にいいけどね、あんなやつのことなんか。
Mashiro turned her face away with a pout. Whatever the boring reason was, it wasn't like she was going to figure it out like that. Afterwards, Mashiro left the boys and headed to the park. Despite all the things she said, it bothered her to hear about Natsuhiko being with a girl.
一緒にいたらからかってやろう。しししし。私のことを男女と言ったこと悔やむがいい。
She held that determination in her heart, and when she actually got to the park, she didn't find Natsuhiko, but a lone, cute girl there instead. Could she be the girl everyone's been talking about? Mashiro had never seen that girl before, even though she pretty much knew all the girls and boys in the neighborhood. So Mashiro decided to call out to her.
ねえ、夏彦待ってるの？
The girl slowly turned around to face her. There was something elegant behind that gesture. Mashiro found herself overwhelmed.
夏彦くん待ってるの。
へえ、そうなんだ。
She seems like a calm girl, and she's cute, like a doll.
お名前は？
ユーリ。あなたは？
私は真白。鳥羽真白。
あなたが真白ちゃん？夏彦くんから聞いているよ。
なんて？
誰とでも仲良くなるのが得意だって。私とも友達になってくれるって。
あいつね、勝手にそんなことを。
やっぱり友達にはなってくれないのかな。
Well, when you put it that way,
嘘なるなる。
Mashiro found herself unable to say no to Yuri's puppy dog eyes. But it wasn't as if Mashiro were entirely reluctant. There was something about Yuuri that Mashiro was drawn to as well.
お話でもする？
The two sat on a bench and talked. During the conversation, Mashiro found herself fascinated by Yuri's every little gesture. Each gesture was sweet, somewhat subdued, yet quite beautiful. Compared to her, Mashiro looked at herself. Her suntanned skin, her plain clothes. She couldn't see herself pulling off such feminine gestures. The only thing she could really pride herself in the slightest was her hair, which her mother tied up for her. That's why Mashiro admired Yuri and wanted to be her friend.
それからね。
どうしたの？
なんか真白ちゃんぼーっとしてたみたいだから、私のお話つまらないかな。
全然そんなことないよ。ちょっといろいろ考えてただけ。
It was too embarrassing to admit she was fascinated by her.
まあ、ユーリちゃんはもっと自分に自信持たなきゃダメだよ。
私もそう思うんだけど。
だけど？
Yuri paused and hung her head a little, and then she murmured as if she were talking to herself.
私ね、
うん。
ずっと悩んでたの。友達ができなくて。夏彦くんが最初の友達になってくれたけど、それからできなかったし。だから友達の作り方とかわからなくて。
こんなに可愛いのに変だね。
Yuri's eyes opened wide.
かわいい？
Yeah,
あれ？なんか変なこと言った？
そんなこと初めて言われたよ。でも私なんかより真白ちゃんの方が可愛いよ。
yeah. Mashiro was shocked by that unexpected statement. The boys called her a tomboy, so naturally they all treated her like a boy. As a result, Mashiro unconsciously began to think of herself as one too. So that was the first time she had been told she was cute, and it really sank deep into her heart.
いやでもゆりちゃんの方が可愛いよ。ましろちゃんの方が可愛いよ。ゆりちゃんの方が可愛いよ。ましろちゃんの方が。
Aw,
なんかおかしいね、私たち。
adorably strange. Mashiro was quite happy, to be honest. Not only did she make friends with Yuuri, but Yuuri had also told her that she was cute, which made her happier more than anything. Such a cute girl told me I'm cute too. That day, for the first time in her life, Mashiro felt proud as a girl. Aw. Returning to the present, time for Natsuhiko's awakening. Natsuhiko fell victim to stupefaction. Mashiro frequently went to the hospital to visit him. She prayed for the day that he'd regain consciousness.
夏彦、今日は調子どう？私は今日ね、BC の授業でね、初めてテレパシー成功したよ。これでついに私も能力レベル1。夏彦より先にテレパシー使えるようになっちゃった。すごいでしょ。へへ。No matter how much Mashiro spoke, Natsuhiko would not respond. Even so, she would come speak with him, as she believed that was the only way to bring him back to reality. いやー、夏彦、今年の夏休みは暇だよ。去年は肝試しとかシリウス脱出計画とか七不思議解明作戦とかいろいろ懐かしいよね。実は私あの肝試しの時ね、お化けの声聞いたんだよ。
お
あの時は怖くて言えなかったけど七不思議を一つ解明できたの。お手柄でしょ。今年も解明作戦またやりたいなって思ってたんだけどね。
Even as time passed and summer break arrived, nothing changed.
あのね、今日はね、ちょっとびっくりすることが起きたの。隣のクラスの男子がね、私のことを好きだって手紙くれて。
Okay, I remember that. Seems like we're gonna get another memory about this ghost story, perhaps? Moving along, though. No matter how much she talked to him, there was no response. Eventually.
なんか答えてよ、夏彦。
Her voice rung out from the bottom of her heart and echoed through the hospital room.
私も待ってるよ。夏彦が戻ってくるの。ユーリがいなくなっちゃったから。一人でずっと。
Oh. Hmm? That's an interesting perspective. I'm actually going to save before this one. Either have current state or neutral state. Mashiro suddenly realized just how much her own voice was trembling. Vision had blurred before she noticed.
夏彦。
Mashiro touched Natsuhiko's cheek. She could feel his body warm through the palm of her hand. It was warm. Blood was flowing through his veins. He was certainly there right in front of her, and yet they couldn't exchange words. Though she could touch him, his mind was somewhere else, far away.
夏彦。
Mashiro touched his lips. She brushed up his hair. Brought her own lips close to his. Oh, but stopped. What am I doing? This wasn't some fairy tale. There was no way that'd wake Natsuhiko up. He wouldn't wake up no matter what she did. Mashiro muttered without expecting any response.
ねえ、夏彦。私寂しいよ。前みたいに夏彦と遊びたいよ。
More tears spilled as she uttered those words. Sobs echoed through the quiet hospital room. But then... he woke. A new memory has appeared. Grateful Dead. Yep, as expected. They test their courage at a ruined building on the outskirts of town. Let us flash back. So we get to see some of the early scenes of the before route. No, this is something we did see in Mashiro's memory. Yes. Let's go back to the past again, first and foremost. It was the story of when Natsuhiko and Mashiro had gotten along and had also become friends with Yuuri. Mashiro had come with the other two to a ruined building on the outskirts of town as part of a test of courage. Yuuri muttered with a quivering voice as she walked next to Mashiro.
怖いよ。大丈夫だよ、ユーリ。私がついてるから。
マシロ、声震えてるぞ。
うるさいな、夏彦。ちっとも怖くないし。
That smirk, though. That smirk. Actually, she was. To hide her fear, she deliberately tried to speak cheerfully.
ところでさ、夏彦。ここってもともとは何の建物だったの？
病院だよ。
病院？
なんか何年も前に火事になってさ、人も死んだとか死んでないとか、それで死んだ人の幽霊が出るとか出ないとか、その幽霊は生きてる人を見つけたら取り付いて殺しちゃうとか。六名士の七不思議の中にもあるんだよ。ここに幽霊が出るって噂がさ、僕の友達の友達も見たって言ってたし、本当にいるのかも。
It might be real. Maybe.
大丈夫だよ、ユーリ。私がついてるから。
マシロ、さっきと同じこと言ってるぞ。
うっさいな、夏彦。
まあいいや。さーて、ここをぐるっと一回りしてこようか。まあ、マシロは外で待っててもいいけど。
That shit-eating grin. I love it.
せっかく来たのにそんなことするわけないでしょ。ほら行こう、ユーリ。
Mashiro grabbed Yuuri by the hand and started walking in an effort to distance herself from fear. An uncanny atmosphere filled the silent facility. Even Natsuhiko's initial enthusiasm faded into silence. Silent air sent fear into Mashiro's heart once again. Someone died. Here. That's probably just another one of Natsuhiko's lies. There's no such thing as ghosts. That's so unscientific. No such thing as ghosts. No such thing as ghosts. No such thing as ghosts. As Mashiro kept telling herself that, she felt as if she had heard a voice. Give up. Oh. Mashiro's heart pounded. When she stopped in surprise, the others gasped.
どうした？
何かあったの？いや、今何か。
That was Wataru. Before Mashiro could finish, the voice once again. Yeah, that's definitely Wataru. Wow. Rather than hearing it with her ears, it felt more like it was echoing right in her head. Mashiro was overcome with surprise for a moment, and then she screamed. That voice caused Natsuhiko and Yuuri to scream one after the other as well. Mashiro screamed again and made a dash for the exit.
おい、待ってよ、マシロ。
Natsuhiko and Yuuri screamed as they chased after her. Mashiro just kept running without looking back. Once they were outside, Natsuhiko and Yuuri finally caught up with her. When they asked her what happened, Mashiro lied to keep up appearances. I tried messing around with you guys to try and surprise you. Yuuri tearfully said, Mashiro, you're so mean. While Natsuhiko grumbled. Mashiro regretted lying, but it was too late to back down on it. And so the truth of the ghost slipped away into the darkness. Wow. Okay, that's a really interesting piece of information there. That's actually, we know from past experience and with other people that was Wataru. That was Watase's sister right there. And we know that we've heard plenty of theories about ghosts being a result of lingering BC particles in the air when you die. So, yeah, Wataru is literally haunting the hospital. Well, we have one key to find in here now. 9 years after the incident with Ladebo, Natsuhiko averts his eyes from reality. Mashiro keeps telling him white lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Just about a week ago. Remember, nobody was there. I still love how it's the exact same screen CG. Just no Yuuri. Natsuhiko spoke apologetically to Mashiro despite having been left in the dark.
それにしてもいつも悪いな、マシロ。
何言ってんの。夏彦のお母さんからお礼もいただいてるし、バイトみたいなもんだよ。それにあんたのためじゃない。どっちかって言えばユーリのためだよ。ね、ユーリ。
As Mashiro said that, she secretly thought to herself, I do it for Yuuri, huh? Well, that's interesting. Mashiro did indeed suffer a deep wound after losing her close friend. She was honestly happy that she could still talk to the deceased Yuuri by using empathy on Natsuhiko. Naturally, that couldn't have been her only reason. What have all these 9 years been for? She had a faint idea of the real reason. She felt that accepting that reason would mean betraying Yuri's memory. That was why Mashiro would not think about it. She likes Natsuhiko. So she took care to only touch upon harmless and inoffensive topics when talking with Natsuhiko.
夏彦、おいしい？
ああ、おいしいよ。
そう、よかった。
So that's what the last log's going to be about. Interesting. Let's move along. Mashiro's fine with Natsuhiko as he is. The visit to the park serves as a bitter reminder of the past. Natsuhiko changed after Yuri's death. Mashiro could do nothing for him but watch over him and support him. She didn't do it to boast, nor did she want Natsuhiko to know what she was doing or how she felt. As such, perhaps she really was doing it for Natsuhiko's sake. Her inconsistencies were endless. Nevertheless, Mashiro thought that she would stay by his side like this forever. This is for the best. I don't at least believe that I'm doing the right thing, that everything I'm doing for Natsuhiko will really be all for nothing. Let's leave it like that for now. Those days would eventually come to an end. Daily life would one day collapse, but there was indeed peace within that life. Like their nostalgic chat in the park, illuminated by the glow of the setting sun. Even if that peace were only temporary, it was an irreplaceable treasure to her.
ねえ、夏彦。
ん？
覚えてる？あの頃のこと。ユーリと一緒に3人でここを駆け回ってた頃のこと。
ああ、もちろん。懐かしい思い出だよ。
多分あの頃私ね、夏彦のこと好きだったよ。
Whoa. Natsuhiko's eyes widened at those words.
意地悪だけど、いざという時は優しくてさ、他の男の子とはちょっと違う感じでさ、喧嘩ばっかりしてたけど、本当はもっと素直に仲良くしたかった。子供だったからよくわかんなかったけど、きっとあれが初恋だったんだと思う。
Oh, blushing
初恋
Natsuhiko.
って今は
It's a little more awkward now.
今も好きだよ。友達として。
Because at the time, we don't want to betray Yuri's
で
memory.
も夏彦にはユーリがいるじゃない。
うん
だから、まあ、そういうことだよ。今の私はね、夏彦とユーリを見守ることの方が、なんか、嬉しいんだ。
She had no other way to confess her feelings. Natsuhiko cast down his eyes and smiled sadly.
そうか
Oh. When he murmured those words, a gentle breeze blew by, enveloping the two of them. Mashiro gazed at his face from the side and silently prayed that one day she'd be able to make this transient confession a reality. Oh. Whoa. Perhaps some parts of those memories didn't actually happen. Ah. Were the true events how Natsuhiko remembered them? What I just now saw of how Mashiro remembered them. There's no longer any way to know for sure. The new memory of Mashiro's floats now before me. Memory she had locked away alongside her intense feelings for Natsuhiko. The one I love. Well. Was a memory of just a few days ago. The night Sally arrived at the Tenkawa residence. Mashiro discussed with Natsuhiko about how they should handle Sally.
もっと夏彦も話しかけて、心をほぐしてあげてよ。
Once Mashiro made that suggestion, Natsuhiko looked a little troubled, but then he nodded.
分かったなるべく努力するよ
またその答え？
なあいや適当に答えてるわけじゃないんだけど
まあいいよ。期待してるからね。それじゃあね、夏彦。また明日。
なあまたな
Mashiro responded with a smile and departed. She walked the short distance back home alone. Once her house came into view, someone suddenly called her from the darkness.
ましろちゃん？
Yes! Mashiro jumped back in surprise. When she turned towards the voice, she saw Dr. Tenkawa standing there.
ああ、ごめんなさい。驚かせてしまったわね。あ、博士？どうしたんですか？ラボに行ったんじゃ。ましろちゃんと話がしたくて待っていたのよ。ゆいのこと。あなたにはもう少し詳しい説明をしておいた方が良さそうだから。
Professor explained more about Sally. How she had been raised by strict parents and rarely ever left home. How the professor couldn't bear to see her like that and temporarily took custody of her.
ゆいを夏彦と一緒に暮らさせるのは少し賭けだけど、これはゆいのためであるし、夏彦のためでもあると思うの。夏彦のためですか？あの子は他人に対し少し冷たすぎるところがあるでしょ。ゆうりちゃんやましろちゃんを除けば、ほとんど人に気を許すことはない。他人の心を洞察することには長けているくせにね。はい。
He seemed completely incapable of perceiving other people's romantic advances. But Mashiro dared not mention that little detail.
だけどそれは実はね、ゆいと真逆の特性なの。ゆいは他人の心を洞察する力が極度に低いけど、他人とのつながりを欲している。そんな二人を引き合わせれば、最初は衝突するかもしれないけど。
Yeah, it's surface level, it feels completely incompatible. But if it opens up Natsuhiko to being more willing to accept others, then that wall breaks down completely.
互いに足りないところを埋め合うことができる気がするのよ。
Yeah,
いいアイディアのような気がします。
I like that. Previously, the professor, Mashiro, and Natsuhiko's doctor had thought that to treat his mental condition, they should give him more opportunities to establish deep connections with other people. That way they could reduce his dependency on Yuuri at least a little. That was probably why the professor had arranged for Sally to live in the Tenkawa residence, but
でもなんで夏彦に直接そう言わないんですか？彼だいぶ戸惑ってましたよ。
いやだって私が言うとあの子すぐ反発するし。
確かにそうですね。
Mashiro smiled wryly as she looked at the professor's lack of confidence. Something amused Mashiro about how this awkward mother had trouble approaching her son. It was somehow charming that how the professor never openly showed how much she cared for her son, resorted to taking secretive measures like this one.
それでね、あの二人だけじゃ心もとないから、ましろちゃんにかすがいになってほしいのだけど、頼めるかしら。
わかりました。何でも協力しちゃいますよ。
ありがとうましろちゃん。いつもごめんなさいね。夏彦絡みで面倒なお願いばっかりして。
まあ難しいやつですからね。でも私全然不満ないですよ。楽しんでやってますから。
After Mashiro finished, the professor paused for a moment before asking another question.
ましろちゃん、いつも思うんだけど、どうして夏彦のためにそこまでしてくれるの？
どうしてって。
Mashiro smiled wryly and sighed a bit.
博士も夏彦と同じで、こういうのには鈍いんですね。博士、私ね、すっごく好きなんだと思います。
The professor's eyes widened at that answer.
それはその男性として
どうでしょう。まあ今は親友としてかな。
そうなのね。
The professor muttered that and smiled somewhat sadly. What Mashiro said to the professor, she probably could not say to the boy in question. Mashiro thought she'd continued to keep those feelings to herself, until the day came when the time was right. Oh. I still ship it. I do. She's the absolute best, and she deserves happiness. Natsuhiko's friend, a first-year high school student enrolled in Rokame Academy. A rank B aptitude, ability level 5 communicator. Though she is liked by both boys and girls in this school, her unabashed closeness to Natsuhiko causes their classmates to treat them as an official couple. Due to her innocent romantic interest in Natsuhiko, she wanted to know what was on his mind as he began to see Yuri's phantom. And thus over the course of 5 years, Mashiro obtained ability beyond what her aptitude would predict. She became an exceptional rank B aptitude communicator with ability equivalent to ability level 5. Whenever she was within the Tenkawa residence, she would read Natsuhiko's mind with empathy, treating Yuri as if she were really there. Just as he perceived her to be, Mashiro felt both joy and guilt at being able to experience a part of Natsuhiko's world, and devoted herself to be there for him in case he ever had a panic attack. My damn mouse hand. Natsuhiko, on the other hand, probably never even imagined this side of her. She simply saw her as a larger-than-life girl who was bright, somewhat meddling, a little rough around the edges. In her private life, Mashiro has an unmatched love for anime and games, especially Psychic Girl Beyond Beyond, a title she never stops talking about, which involves a girl with psychic abilities not unlike BC, who secretly stands up against great difficulties and is ultimately rewarded. A happy story she likes for various reasons. No wonder she sees herself in that. Stands up against great difficulties and ultimately comes out of it better for it. We're about halfway through an episode, so I think Yuri's are going to be next. I think we can fit her into this episode yet. We have Moribe, saving Natsuhiko for last. Anna. The prologue. I want to do Watase and Cosby in the same episode if possible. But yeah, I'd say we do Yuuri next to end out this episode. And then Moribe. And then Enna. We've done Salyu. Moribe. Yuuri, Moribe, Enna. And then the two lovebirds. Kazumi. And Watase. It just feels right to do this. Near last. It feels like this is going to be the relationship. Part that we all wanted to see more of. Okay. I'm gotta split this recording, but we'll come back, we'll do Yuuri, end off this episode. Why am I going back and forth? I'm just God. Sorry. I'm a mess. Really am. Okay, as promised, we'll cover Yuuri next. Looks like we have 3 scenes to get locks out of. And 2 memories to unlock. So this is the scene where Yuuri chooses to become, well, gets incarcerated in Labo. After the first Labo incident, Yuuri gets incarcerated in Labo. Experiments. Interesting. This is something related to Mashiro, then. And this is the scene revolving around Yuuri saving Natsuhiko from the Yuuri remnant she put in his head all those years ago. So let's just start in chronological order then, shall we? After Yuuri receives an examination and is discovered to have gone through some great changes, she is forced into a certain choice. That was after Dr. Tenkawa said she'd be back soon and left the hospital room.
個人的感情を優先し、それを野放しにするなど、そんな身勝手が許されるわけがない。Not even considering them human anymore.
ふざけないで。先日の一件という近頃のラボは倫理が欠落しているわ。これ以上それが続くようなら消化局に告発するわよ。
それができないことは分かってますよね。ご子息の身の安全を考えると。Just wanted to highlight that bit as we were going through this. Just as a shout out to the point in Ukita's backstory where he was considering the fact that possibly Miyoko was being blackmailed to go along with the test subject thing. And is shockingly on the head with that one.
私がおとなしくラボに行く代わりにヒコリンだけでも自由にしてもらうっていうのは。
Simple choice there.
可能かもしれない。幸い夏彦はまだ目を覚ましていない。事情を知らないうちならなんとか。だけどユーリちゃんはそれでいいの？いい
んです。だってヒコリンは私を何度も助けてくれたから。
When she said those words, Yuuri was reminded of all those times he had saved her. How on the day they first met, Yuuri was crying until Natsuhiko called out to her and became her friend. And when Yuuri was worried about not making any friends, Natsuhiko had told her about Mashiro. And when Yuuri was agonized by her family problem, Natsuhiko had tried to save her. Natsuhiko always cared for Yuuri, and he was always there for her.
博士、私、ヒコリンに、あの火事の時も、ヒコリンは私を助けるために、そのせいで、ヒコリンが閉じ込められちゃうのは、私、嫌です。
ユーリちゃん。
だからね、博士。今度だけは私がヒコリンを助けたいと思います。
That was the moment Yuuri decided her own fate. 2 days later, when Yuuri was transferred to Labo, Dr. Tenkawa informed her of the news.
夏彦にはあなたがあの火災で死んだと伝えたわ。
そうですか。
以後夏彦は特別監視対象としてラボおよび政府機関の監視下に置かれることになったわ。ラボ内に幽閉されたあなたと社会の中で生きる夏彦、その2人のコミュニケーターの比較データを取る名目でなんとかそれを認めさせることができたの。もっとも夏彦が一定以上の能力レベルに達したら直ちにここに移送されるけれど。
That would be a desirable result for Yuuri, but Hikurin loves it outside. He's got lots of friends. It'd be sad if he got locked up inside. Oh, okay, so that didn't unlock anything yet. But suppose we'll go chronologically next. There's 2 locks in here. 2 months ago, Yuri's 9th encounter with Natsuhiko since the incident. Yuuri notices the feelings her best friend has kept hidden. Each individual memory was trivial by itself.
夏彦、買い物付き合ってよ。ちょっと買いたいものあるからさ。
なんだよ、またアニメショップにでも行くのか？
いいじゃん、暇でしょ。
But something bothered Yuuri about Mashiro's facial expressions in these memories.
夏彦、夏彦、これ見てよ。可愛くない？
Not sure about this one. Okay. Hi, Mashiro then.
買いたいものって服かよ。僕、女の子の服とかよくわからないよ。
男の子の意見も聞きたいんだよ。一般論として。
The way Mashiro looked at, spoke to, and behaved with Natsuhiko made it quite obvious that she was falling in love with him. In Natsuhiko's memory, Mashiro would talk to the Phantom.
ねえユーリ、今日のご飯はどうかな？美味しいよマシロ。どんどんお料理上手になってくね。可愛くてお料理上手で理想のお嫁さんって感じだよ。嬉しいこと言ってくれるじゃないの。どうユーリ？私と結婚するかい？
Aw. She was able to hold a conversation without any issue. It was as if Yuuri actually existed there. Yuuri was painfully aware of just how amazing a feat that was. Just being able to hold a conversation like that would have required Mashiro to train her ability to the point that she could use empathy like it was nothing. There was only one reason she'd go through such lengths. Mashiro wants to be with Hikurin so much that she... Welcome back. In that case, both Natsuhiko and Mashiro would be better off if they forgot about Yuuri. Thought began to rapidly spread within Yuri's mind. She walked out of the laboratory with slumped shoulders to find the professor waiting in the hall.
ユーリちゃん、1年ぶりのオーセはどうだった？
博士、ヒコリンの中にある私の記憶、全部マシロンとの記憶に差し替えた方がいいんじゃ。
False.
どうしてまたそんなことを？
だってそうじゃないとマシロンが。
マシロちゃんのことを気にかけているの？
Yuuri nodded weakly.
私たちいつも一緒にいたからそんなに違和感も出ないと思うんです。それに私、子供の頃からあの二人にはもっと仲良くなってほしいと思ってたし、昔はヒコリンとマシロンは喧嘩ばかりしてたけど、もうそんなことしなくなったし、そろそろその二人がもっと仲良くなってもいいと思うんですけど。
The professor fell silent, her face clearly showing she was at a loss for words. Eventually, she sighed and spoke.
気持ちはわかるけど、それもおそらくまずいわ。
どうしてですか？
優里ちゃんに関する記憶を操作すれば、おそらく夏彦の心には重大な問題が出ると思うの。
そんな、でも丁寧にやれば。
いいえ、夏彦にとって優里ちゃんの存在は大きすぎる。そうでなくても夏彦の精神はすでに無数の問題を抱えているのよ。これまでに夏彦は幾度となく優里ちゃんの不在に気づきかけたんだけど、それを認めようとしない。そのあまりに奇妙な行動をとることもあるわ。
奇妙な行動？
例えば我が家のリビングで夏彦が優里ちゃんのためにホットミルクを入れるとするでしょ。
はい。
でも現実には優里ちゃんはそこに存在しないから、優里ちゃんのコップの中のミルクは減りはしないわよね。だけどそのことに対し夏彦は何の疑問も持たないの。
The little things that we noticed that we could notice if we were paying attention. Anyways, let's move on. Oh, sweet dream. Atatakai? Not sure how to pronounce that. Ah. First summer break, Yuuri spent with Natsuhiko and Mashiro. Interesting. So don't forget it. Oh hey, that happened last year. What a year that was. It was the first summer after Yuuri moved into Rokume City. It was something Yuuri had been looking forward to now that she was a second grader in elementary school. And that was summer break. Yuuri had been looking forward to playing with Natsuhiko, Mashiro, and the other kids a whole lot. And the day had finally come. The first day of summer break, Yuuri headed to the park.
夏彦くんとましろちゃんいるかな。いなかったらどうしよう。ご本でも読もうかな。
Those were the anxieties she felt as she walked. But lo and behold, Natsuhiko and Mashiro were there, playing in the park.
夏彦くん、ましろちゃん、こんにちは。
あ、優里だ。
あれ？小学校に行かなくていいの？うん、もう夏休みに入ったの。今日から毎日3人で遊ぼうね。
そっか。よし、それなら夏休みの計画を立てようぜ。予定を立てないと夏なんてあっという間に終わっちゃうからな。
あ、それいいね。夏彦くん、何かいいアイディアとかある？
そうだな。
Natsuhiko folded his arms, and soon enough his eyes
これ
widened.
だ。六名士最強ベーゴマ使い決定戦。
ベーゴマ？おお、それはまさか世に言うベイゴマ。
That's Beyblade!
知ってるのか、マシロ。
That's Beyblade!
普通にベーゴマでしょ？ねえねえ夏彦くん、決定戦ってどういうこと？
この町で一番ベーゴマが強いやつを決める一大イベントさ。どうだ、すごいだろ？
夏彦くん、すごい。
Yuuri clapped, but Mashiro just sneered.
夏彦のアイデアも意外と大したことないよ。
I love that expression.
じゃあもっといい案出してみろよ。
That's adorable.
よし、聞いて驚くな。ズバリ六名士最強めんこ使い決定戦。
To see who's the
でもそれも可愛くていい
the
かも。
pog. The
マ
pog.
シロちゃん、やっぱり女の子だね。
The pog champ.
そんなの全然すごくないやい。僕の方がすごい。
何よ、私の方がすごいもん。
僕？
私。
The two of them glared at each other threateningly, an everyday occurrence.
喧嘩はやめてよ。もう最近二人は仲良くなったと思ったのに。
だって真白が。
だって夏彦が。
Neither Natsuhiko nor Mashiro would yield. Yuri's shoulders slumped. There's something of a rivalry between the two. This rate my summer break might go to waste. What'd we do?
二人であだ名とかつけて、それで呼び合ったらどうかな。そうすれば少し距離が近くなるかもしれないよ。
あだ名って 例えばどんな？
例えば
Yuri fell silent for a while. She wanted to give them nicknames, but she couldn't think of any. After she thought for a while, a flash of inspiration struck Yuri's mind.
そうだ、ヒコリンとマシロンってのはどう？
Ah!
ヒコリン？
何よ夏彦、気に入らないの？
いや、気に入らないってわけじゃないけどさ。ヒコリンにマシロン？嫌だな。
ユーリがつけてくれたんだから文句言わないの。可愛いじゃん。ねえ夏彦。
マシロだってヒコリンって呼んでないじゃないか。
あ、
Nope. And with that, Natsuhiko and Mashiro fell silent. Yuri chuckled as she watched them acting like that. Yep, they're not fighting anymore, so it's better this way. She had a feeling a few other things didn't go quite right, but she decided it was good enough. She really did want Mashiro and Natsuhiko to call each other by nicknames. And Yuri did like the nicknames Hikorin and Mashiron. But she figured that beggars couldn't be choosers. They'll come around someday. I'm sure they will. That wish alone was enough for Yuri. Ever since then, Yuri used every opportunity she had to call them Mashiron and Hikorin, because she thought that they'd all get along better if she did. But no matter how much time passed, Natsuhiko and Mashiro's rivalry never changed.
ねえねえヒコリン、どうしてマシロちゃんのことマシロンって呼ばないの？
なんかくすぐったいんだもん。
マシロンは？ノコメント。二人とも私に呼ばれるのは嫌がらないのに。
ユーリはいいんだ、ユーリは。お姉さんだからな。
夏彦の言う通りだね。なんでこんな時ばっかり息ぴったりなのよ。
We only agree with each other when it comes time to flatter you, Yuri. Yuri smiled wryly, but she didn't feel bad about it. After all, she got the feeling that Natsuhiko and Mashiro were starting to get along just a little bit better. She also felt like the three of them getting closer. Wish the three of us could always stay together, even after we've all grown up. It'd be weird to keep calling them by their nicknames even after we're grown up? Nah. As she pondered that question, Yuri patted Natsuhiko and Mashiro on the head. Yuri thought that they looked cute, so cute when they were embarrassed like that. In the end, only Yuri ever used those nicknames. Yuri felt like that was the time that Mashiro started to be a nickname wizard. I was gonna mention that afterwards. But Mashiro would give nicknames to those she wanted to be friends with. But Yuri was the only exception. Mashiro only called her by her name, since they were already friends. She was both happy and proud with that policy of hers. As for Yuri herself, even 10 years later to this day, she still calls them by their nicknames, as she prays for the two of them to become even closer. I was gonna bring that up afterwards if they didn't, but yeah, it's I love that. Yuri was the chief nickname officer of the friend group, and Mashiro, who obviously cared about Yuri a lot, adopted the nickname policy. And that's why Mashiro was the one that gave Sally a nickname when they first met. That's adorable. I love that. Love this group. Oh, anyway, World of Smoke and Flame. She ran around, driven by the desire to live. She then once again encounters him. We have one lock here, and then one more memory to view. Yuri had come across Watase and he knocked her out. Yuri plunged into a nearby room, every fiber of her being focused only on escaping from the flames. She lowered her body and crawled under a desk so as to not breathe in the smoke. She could tell it was only a matter of time before that room burned up too. Am I going to die here? Thought that might not be such a bad thing. Even if she were to survive, she probably would still never make it out of Labo. As long as Natsuhiko and the others managed to escape in the end, that was probably good enough for her. That's right, the lie we kept telling it is now coming true. That's all. With this, Yuri would disappear in both name and substance. The curse that haunted Natsuhiko and Mashiro would slip out of existence. Oh no. This is for the best. wouldn't even have been strange if Anne actually died long ago anyway. Because if Hikurin didn't use telepathy back then, I would have died. So these 9 extra years were more like a bonus, if anything. Glad I was able to stay with them for a little longer, even if it was just as a phantom. She kept telling herself that when she finally readied herself. She heard an explosion from outside the room. Yuuri couldn't help but scream. The door to the room was crushed and flames rushed in. Then the force of the flames fiercely intensified. Perhaps the explosive had caught on fire. Time for Watase and Jun to save the day. The heat was so intense that it was difficult to breathe. The heat haze rose up for the entire floor, warping the sight of Yuri's surroundings. As she watched the haze, all the preparation Yuuri had made to accept her death turned into fear. Yuuri went back through her memories countless times, and in the process she reaffirmed her feelings in detail. Her feelings for Natsuhiko and the others. And her feelings for her. Oh? Girl who was truly isolated, unable to interact with anybody. As Yuuri thinks about that girl's existence, a new memory rises up from the innermost depths of her mind. Kokoro, mind. Well. Tanabata, 1 year ago, Yuri's thoughts turned to the other her within Natsuhiko's mind. Oh. July 7th. Anniversary of Yuri's death. It was decided that Yuuri had died on that day in 2021. Every year, when July 7th rolled in, there was a girl who was born. A girl who disappeared. That girl being the other Yuuri. The phantom that Natsuhiko perceived ever since that day. She was born out of sight, and vanished out of sight in the same way. July 7th had become both her birthday and the anniversary of her death. That day came along again this year. Dr. Tenkawa led Yuuri to the neuroscience laboratory.
1年ぶりの王瀬ね、ユーリちゃん。王瀬って博士毎年そう言いますけど、あくまでこれはヒコリンの記憶を更新する作業ですよ。冗談よ。それじゃあ私少し出てるわね。何かあったら呼んでちょうだい。はい、ありがとうございます。
The professor nodded and left the room. Yuuri then looked at Natsuhiko.
1年ぶりだね、ヒコリン。
There was Natsuhiko, put to sleep by drugs. Once each year, Yuuri would meet him again like this. He wasn't the only one she'd meet. She'd see the Mashiro in his memories, as well as her own other self.
今年はどんな年だったかな。
Yuuri muttered that and dove into his mind. First thing to float up was the uneventful memory of a normal day. That night, Natsuhiko had his usual book chat with the Phantom over a cup of milk.
今日はどんな本を読んだんだい？
今日は不思議な小説を読んだよ。心の中に自分の世界を作ってしまった人とその心に潜る人の話。
Oh.
潜る？エンパシーで心を読むっていうこと？
それみたいなものかな。大発言前に書かれた話だから用語は違ってたけど、でもすごく面白くてなんだか温かい話だったよ。
The Phantom turned to Natsuhiko and said that. Yuuri thought to herself as she watched. You were there for Hikurin again this year, huh? Thank you. Good work. Yuuri thanked her other self from the bottom of her heart. But not even Yuuri was exactly sure what her phantom was. According to the professor, the phantom was a hallucination caused by mental dysfunction. Yuuri recalled the explanation she had once heard.
あの幻影を動かしているのは夏彦自身よ。夏彦は自分の記憶の中にあるユーリちゃんの情報を統合し、常に妥当性のある振る舞いを幻にさせている。ユーリならこう言うだろう、ユーリならこう動くだろうというふうに判断してね。
The professor was right. There was not much difference between the real Yuuri and the phantom. She might have been a result of these regular checkups. During each of these regular checkups, Yuuri would fill in Natsuhiko's memories with the knowledge she had gained that year, including her impressions on books she had read. That way her knowledge would affect the Phantom, so she could express her impression of newly read books to Natsuhiko. She's no longer just a hallucination, huh? This girl is my clone. And for 365 days a year, she would stay beside Natsuhiko in the real Yuri's stead. The Phantom was probably the more real Yuuri in Natsuhiko's eyes. That thought in mind, Yuuri watched a year's worth of memories. At the end, she renewed the information relating to herself. Huh. Thus, Natsuhiko would live with a new Yuuri clone for another year. But Yuuri thought to herself, when I renew Hikurin's memories, the clone that works so hard is reborn as a new clone. So is what I'm doing? Erasing an old me and replacing her with a new one? Yuuri 7.0. Downloading updates. Perhaps that was the case, perhaps not. At the end of the day, not even Yuuri understood what was going on inside Natsuhiko's brain. A new Yuuri is available to be downloaded. In any case, she had already erased and rebirthed that Phantom several times. When she thought about it like that, it was somehow heartrending. Just Yuuri patch notes. If Hikurin one day realized the Phantom is just a phantom, she might disappear for real. It just seems kinda sad. She wanted to at least leave proof that the Phantom had existed, but that would probably be difficult. That girl had not a single effect on the world outside of Natsuhiko's mind. What if I can come up with a way? Like, what if I had the other me create something physical? Then I created the same thing here in Labo. Oh. Then I'd have the professor deliver it. It could perhaps somewhat count as a reminder that the Phantom existed. Yeah, that could be a good idea. Then what should we make? She thought for a while, but she couldn't come up with an answer on the spot. She decided to make it her homework for the next yearly checkup. That why Yuuri started knitting? Were there discussions about Phantom Yuuri knitting? And then in Yuri's epilogue, she actually does deliver the results of what she was doing. It's interesting. Something permanent to prove that her Phantom existed. Anyways, Yuuri Kotono. Natsuhiko's childhood friend. Yuuri was originally a rank C aptitude communicator, but 9 years ago she was exposed to large doses of WX particles at the incident following Subject N's attempted escape, causing Yuuri to change into a rank S aptitude, ability level 6 communicator. After she was rescued from the fire, she was confined in Labo. In exchange for allowing Natsuhiko to live in its society, as a special observation target for Labo, Yuuri was made legally dead and forced to cooperate in research confined in Labo. Natsuhiko fell into a state of stupefaction in response to the news of Yuri's alleged death. Yuuri rewrote his memories, causing him to create a phantom of her. While Miyoko accommodated her to the best of her ability, there were still many hardships about life confined in Labo. Yuri's biggest comfort was how she was allowed to see Natsuhiko but once a year. Yearly rendezvous with a boy who was drugged to sleep under the pretext of a yearly checkup on Tanabata. And just like the yearly meetings of Orihime and Hikoboshi, each of Yuri's meetings with Natsuhiko was but an ephemeral moment in time. Regardless, those meetings seemed to be enough to support her heart for all those 9 years. The Watase's terrorist attack served as an opportunity for her to be saved by Natsuhiko. They are now spending their days escaping pursuers from Q. Even in those circumstances, she is happy to be by Natsuhiko's side. And she still smiles calmly today. God, I can't imagine just the sheer despair of living 9 years watching your friends live on without you. Watching yourself live on without you. And just that feeling of wanting to disappear because your presence would be a burden coming back into their lives. Just sad. It's painfully real, but painfully sad. But she's free now. And she gets to live. She gets another chance. Even in a world where they're trying to clean up the remnants of Q and all that. She gets a chance to live.